Good evening, and thank you for joining Senator Andy Kim's Town Hall. My name is Ben, and I have the honor to serve on Senator Kim's team in New Jersey. Before I get to the Senator, I wanted to let you know that if you're listening in on the phone, you can press *3 at any time during the Town Hall, and you'll placed in a queue to ask a question live with the Senator. For those joining us online, you can type in your question in the bar below the player. To stay up to date with our office, Senator Kim's activity around the state and at the Capitol, you can press *6 to provide your email address to be added to our newsletter. I now would like to introduce my colleague Leo to say a few words as well. Leo?
Buenas tardes y gracias por acompañarnos en el foro comunitario del senador Andy Kim. Mi nombre es Leonardo y tengo el honor de formar parte del equipo del senador Kim en Nueva Jersey. Antes de pasarle la palabra al senador, quería informarles que si están participando por teléfono, pueden presionar *3 en cualquier momento durante el foro comunitario y serán colocados en una lista para hacerle una pregunta en vivo al senador. Para quienes nos acompañan en línea, pueden escribir su pregunta en la barra que aparece debajo del reproductor. Para mantenerse al día con nuestra oficina y con las actividades del senador Kim en todo el estado y en el Capitolio, pueden presionar *6 para dar su correo electrónico y suscribirse a nuestro boletín informativo. Ben, back to you.
Thank you, Leo. And thank you all again for joining us this evening. Without further ado, I'll pass it over to Senator Kim. Senator?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks, Leo. Thanks, everybody. This is Andy Kim. Thank you for joining up. I really wanted to pull our state together for this town hall today because there's a lot at stake right now. There are a couple, obviously, very big issues that are happening right now, and I wanted to talk through them. I was going to start by talking through the Gateway Tunnel project and the challenges that we're facing today as we have a massive deadline today that we're on the cusp of. And I'll also talk through the challenges that we're facing with the lawlessness in Minnesota and other challenges as well. But I wanted to just start with the Gateway Tunnel project. Before I do, I just want to say, these town halls are really important. Whether we're doing them on the phone or I have the chance to do them in person, this is a chance for me to be able to hear from you, be able to report to you about what I'm working on. Whether you voted for me or not, you're my boss, and my job is to serve you and your family to the best of my ability. And I need to check in with you, tell you what is happening, and be able to get your feedback on what's important and to be able to address these together. And I know that there's a lot of challenges that are out there, a lot of anxiety that we're facing that we worry about. And I feel it too. I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, 2 little boys that are growing up right now. And I'd be honest with you, I worry about what kind of America my kids are growing up in as we just see, the continued problems that we're facing, the level of just divisiveness that's out there. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you. I really do believe that these abilities to come together and talk through town halls are just so paramount and important to our democracy. And we're able to gather around, especially when we have these big issues to discuss. And as I mentioned today, by midnight tonight, if we're not able to get the funding going forward on the Gateway Tunnel project, we will see a complete closure of this project for the foreseeable future. And this is something of the utmost importance. I mean, the Gateway Tunnel project is something that is essential for New Jersey and for New York. We are relying on tunnels that are built in 1910, and my team always likes to frame it as that was even before the Titanic set sail. I mean, this infrastructure is challenged. It has a lot of problems, and if we see the disruptions to the tunnels, this is something that can be economically catastrophic for our region, but it also is going to impact many of your lives, whether it's your commutes or getting home to families. I know I've been stuck there at Penn Station before as we've had problems with NJ Transit. We know we have delays, and we know we need, more trains to be able to keep up with the commuters and to be able to help you all be able to have the ability to get to work and get home with more reliability and to be able to do it faster. That's what we're trying to build towards. And the Gateway Tunnel project is one of the largest construction projects that are out there. and it's meant to take our state into the next century, to be able to give us kind of infrastructure that is going to allow the economic growth. And that's exactly what it's supposed to do, is be able to give us that type of capacity. But what we see right now is that the funding is about to stop. And I want to explain it's because of one person, the President of the United States. He has the ability to be able to turn this back on because he is the one that turned it off. A couple months ago, he said that he was going to terminate the Gateway Tunnel project, and that's exactly what he's done. And again, this is just a very clear example of just a self-inflicted wound. If this happens, this really should not be a political issue. This is something that Democrats and Republicans and independents all need. This is about our economic security, and this is something that is vital for our region. And I hope that we can all agree upon this. If we're not able to get the funds, we're going to see 1,000 workers immediately lose their paychecks, lose their jobs. 1,000 families right here that are going to be affected. And we're going to see over the course of the coming weeks and months, an additional 10,000, 11,000 jobs that are not going to be built out because of this. And that's going to have, just huge repercussions. These are good construction jobs, union jobs. These are jobs that are supporting so many families that right now are just trying to get answers to why is it that this is happening. And this is exactly what we're trying to be able to address. I brought on two guests to be able to speak that really can see this from different angles that I think are really important, and something that I wanted to make sure that we have the opportunity to get through right now. So if you don't mind, I'd like to turn to them just because they're very generous with their time. We have first Mr. Tom Wright. He's the president and CEO of the Regional Planning Association, an incredible organization that's been really involved in the Gateway Tunnel project and many other efforts that are trying to, again, take our infrastructure, take our communities into the future, and be able to give us, the kind of infrastructure and planning necessary for us to be able to grow as a state. So, Tom, if you don't mind coming on and telling the folks here just why this is so important and what the latest developments are that you're seeing, that we can make sure that we're understanding about what's happening with the Gateway Tunnel.
Sure, Senator. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, even though it's on a tough occasion. I'll just to, Regional Plan Association, we're a tri-state metropolitan region private nonprofit organization that looks at the long-term health of the New York and New Jersey metropolitan region. And I've been working personally on this project for over 30 years. Just to give a sense to everybody on this, the economies of New York and New Jersey are deeply interconnected. About 20% of the people who work in New York City commute from outside the city. That's about 1 million people. And close to half of them are coming from New Jersey. And for the last generation, by far, most of the growth in commuters into New York City have been coming from New Jersey. Those almost 500,000 people, they earn good wages, more than most people on average, almost $140,000 a year. And they bring about $60 billion a year in earned income back home to their communities in New Jersey. I'd say they also pay about $13 billion a year in federal taxes, something that's worth looking at. And, and this relationship benefits both sides. New Jersey benefits from the wealth that people bring home from it, and New York benefits from access to the large, diverse, and well-educated and talented workforce that New Jersey provides. And so this relationship is strong, and it's been growing over the last 30 years enormously fast. But it's at risk because the Gateway project, the Hudson River tunnels, about over 100,000 of those commuters are using the tunnels, which, as you said, are over 110 years old now. They literally move with the tide. They're kind of in the muck underneath the Hudson River, and when the tide is low, they come up a little bit and then they go down. I've ridden through them. You might have too, Senator, in a special viewing car Amtrak has, and you can see the cracks and the crumbling concrete on the side walls. You see puddles of water. between the train tracks below you. When you are at the bottom of the Hudson River, you do not want to see water down there, and you see the old electrical equipment. And those tunnels flooded during Superstorm Sandy. And so Amtrak is doing everything they can to maintain and kind of keep them safe, but they've made it clear that they cannot do the kinds of maintenance and repairs that they need without taking those tunnels out of operation for months or probably even a couple of years each to do the major repairs that are necessary. And so the Gateway project should be looked at as both a kind of redundancy, resiliency project, making sure we don't lose capacity, and as an increase in capacity program, because at the end of the day, Gateway would then double capacity. We've looked at both the downsides and the upsides of doing this. And on the negative, a few years ago, we did a report, and these numbers are now about 6 or 7 years old, so they're probably even low. But we kind of looked at what would happen if Amtrak had to take out one of the tunnels for repairs and then the other one for a total of 4 years. And you can literally measure the economic impacts from Virginia to Maine. We estimated about a $16 billion economic loss in lost wealth and prosperity, about a $22 billion loss in property values, mostly in northern New Jersey. We estimated that close to 500,000 people would see their commutes get worse. And this is a key thing. Even if you're not taking those trains from New Jersey to New York on a daily basis, when the tunnels fail and those 120,000 commuters need to find a new way to get across the river, everybody who rides a bus, everybody who rides the ferry or takes the path, and anybody, frankly, who drives or travels in northern New Jersey is going to be stuck behind more congestion. We estimated that about 245,000 drivers would have longer commutes, and more than half of them would see their commutes increase by more than 30 minutes. So the downsides of a failure are enormous. The risks of a failure are huge. On the other hand, building the Gateway Tunnel, then taking out the old tunnels one by one to repair them and add capacity, would mean that about 10 years from now, we would have twice as much capacity under the Hudson River as we currently do. Service on places like the Raritan Valley line could then get a one-seat ride, creating more economic growth and prosperity. As you mentioned, there are already over 1,000 people working on the project, and the workforce is expected to grow by to about 9,000 people. Over $1 billion has already been spent of the $16 billion project. And by the way, the project is currently, or was until this week, on time and budget. And we've estimated, if you look out to 2060 and you estimate what are the benefits of doubling capacity under the Hudson River, we think that it adds about 46,000 jobs per year on an average basis, and would add about $445 billion to the region's economy over that generation. So the dangers on the downside are enormous, and the benefits on the upside are enormous. And as you said earlier, this project has always had bipartisan support for exactly this reason. And it's really more than just New Jersey and New York. It really resonates up and down the entire Northeast Corridor, which produces about 20% of the nation's gross domestic product. I'll pause there, and unless you have any questions for me.
No, thank you. Why don't you stick on? Just let's hear from the mayor first. And again, for those who are joining, we're talking about the Gateway Tunnel project. If you have a question, you can dial *3, and if you're listening online, you can type it into the bar there. And if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, where we're giving updates about Gateway and other important issues, you can press *6 now to be added to our newsletter, but *3 for any questions. I'd like to turn to Mayor Cilento of Dunnellon. I visited Dunnellon and went around with the mayor, and it's an incredible town. It was so great to be able to see and especially talk to so many of the small businesses, but also be able to hear directly of how important transit is and how people are making decisions about their lives, buying homes and building communities, based off where they think they can get the kind of commute into the city and to their jobs, and how the Gateway Tunnel is so important. So I asked the mayor to be able to join up. He was very gracious in joining me. Mayor, would you mind jumping on and sharing your perspective on this incredibly important project?
Sure thing. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Cilento, the proud mayor of borough of Denellen here in Middlesex County, and our nickname is a railroad town, so it's very relevant to this conversation. I just want to say thanks to Senator Kim for hosting this town hall. It's a very important topic, of course, and of course for inviting me to participate tonight. And again, Senator, thank you for your recent visit to Denellen to tour our train station and the improvements that were needed there, and to hear directly from our business community and the commuters about the importance of reliable transit and, of course, the Gateway Tunnel project. I really want to stress a main point here is that the funding and constructing of the Gateway Tunnel is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. Delays to this project impact people across the entire political spectrum. All people across the spectrum of politics are working in the city and coming from Jersey into the city. And I say that as a mayor who represents everyone in my community and who happens to have an R at the end of my name. So, and I do want to underscore the importance of bipartisanship on this issue, because Senator, you've worked very strong and I have advocated for this. But I also do want to recognize Congressman Tom Kane Jr. for his leadership for pushing for funding on the project. And I say that because restoring and securing this funding cannot be done in a silo. It requires cooperation from both sides of the aisle and a unified New Jersey congressional delegation working together, of course, with their colleagues in New York as well. For communities like ours along the Raritan Valley line, reliable rail service is not a convenience, but a part of our daily life and a cornerstone of how we operate our local economies. For example, the Denellen train station sits along the Raritan Valley line and serves not only our residents, but commuters from surrounding municipalities and throughout the region. Hundreds of people a day rely on that station, and when service is unreliable, the impact is immediate, which I have seen firsthand as well. It's important to note that towns like Denellen and many of the towns along the Raritan Valley line is designated a transit village. And much of our investment over the past decade, and even more recently, has been centered around our train station and the promise of the Gateway. Our transit-oriented development efforts have totaled nearly $200 million, all built around the understanding that the train station, the Raritan Valley line, are one of our community's most valuable assets. And it's been a reason why many new families have moved to towns like Denellen, and many longtime residents have stayed with the hopes of the Raritan Valley line would one day become a direct line to New York, increasing both convenience and, for those of us who are property owners, property values. So delaying or denying current and future funding undermines this vision, not just for Denellen, but for all municipalities along the Raritan Valley line in this region. Many of these towns have really aligned their comeback stories, their development strategies around their train stations, not only to provide housing, which of course we do need, but to revitalize their downtown and spark economic growth. For decades, I think we all know the story. Small towns in New Jersey, and I'll specifically say around the Raritan Valley line, suffered economically as malls rose in the 1960s and 70s, and that pulled away businesses from our once thriving main streets, and many were left with vacancies. So a lot of our planning has been smart growth, transit-oriented development, and the promise of the Gateway program. That really helped reverse that decline. Our main streets have been having a bit of a comeback because of all this. But without the continued investment in the RVL and the regional rail infrastructure, our small businesses, our property values, and our local economies, I do believe, will suffer once again. And the pause of the funding of the Gateway project will certainly be disastrous for our local economies and the region as a whole. The Gateway project, we all know, would alleviate many of our challenges that commuters face, especially by improving reliability and ensuring direct one-seat rides into New York City. But currently, riders on the Raritan Valley line need to transfer at North Penn Station. Missing that connection can really add significant time to an already, well, we all know if you're commuting, long day, which is a common and frustrating experience for many of our residents who are subject to the unreliability that already is known as New Jersey Transit. So I believe, and before I conclude, that this is not a partisan issue, as it affects people from all walks of life. As the current president of the New Jersey Conference of Mayors and a member of the Raritan Valley Line Mayors Alliance, both bipartisan organizations, I can assure you that this is a critical issue for mayors across the political spectrum, throughout the state and the broader tri-state area. There's simply too much at stake to delay the funding for this project. We must come together, it's crazy to even say this, but put the political theater aside. It's a shame that we even have it, and act beyond party lines and really stress to President Trump that this is not a bargaining chip. This is about people's lives, jobs, and the economic vitality of our entire region. And it must be seen through for the sake of our communities, our state, and our country. And I'll end with this, because as a mayor, people expect us to do our job and not play around. And frankly, I've said it before, Senator, if you heard me say it, the federal government needs to just get the damn job done, because that's what's expected of us as mayors. Our constituents expect us to get the damn job done. It's time that the federal government get the damn job done, and President Trump not use this as a bargaining chip. So thank you for letting me have the chance to speak. And thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. And no, I mean, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. You know, this isn't partisan. This shouldn't be political. And I appreciate as a mayor who's a Republican and me as a senator that's a Democrat, we can agree on how important this project is. And you were saying that you have a bipartisan group of mayors that are engaged in this and working on this. Can you just tell me a little bit about just how you all are working to get the word out in your own communities and be able to talk about just the importance of keeping this project going?
Yeah, thank you. So collectively, the Raritan Valley Lines Mayors Alliance has been working since, before 2020 and getting actionable items, trying to get peak hours in. We've been successful in getting some off-peak hours, but that's still not reliant for our constituents. And we've really been driving home the effort of supporting the Gateway Tunnel and the Hunter Flyover. And we've hosted town halls and conversations with the RPA, which we're very appreciative of that. You can take action with us. We have a website, rvlmayors.org. And we're just a bipartisan group of mayors working amongst the Raritan Valley line and, of course, nearing municipalities, really advocating for this to get done. So word of mouth going. We've had flyer handouts and petition signings at North Penn Station. Like I said, multiple town halls, and really driving home the message of the importance of this being a bipartisan effort.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And Tom, just one quick question to you before I carry on here. You talked about some of this, but can you kind of hit home to us? Like, let's say we go through today and we don't resolve this, and we see delays, a couple weeks, a couple months. What is that going to do to adding to the costs of this Gateway Tunnel? Is this going to make it much more expensive for us to get going again?
Yes, it will. This is something, and thanks for asking. And by the way, I want to say to the mayor, all the work that you and your coalition are doing is so important, and I couldn't agree more. This is not a partisan issue. This is just a simple nuts and bolts issue. And also, if folks are interested, we at RPA have something called the Build Gateway Now Coalition. You can Google it and look it up and join on. Yesterday, I sent a letter to the White House signed on by 22 representatives of business and labor groups from both New York and New Jersey. And if folks want to join on to that, we're always looking for more folks on that. But Senator, your comment, and it's a really important one, because here's the challenging thing. I mean, there are over 1,000 people at work today on 5 major projects. Each of those projects is by itself what we call a mega project. It has a $1 billion price tag of its own, and they're ramping up. The project includes 2 of these enormous tunnel boring machines, which are like a football field in length, or half a football field in length. One of them is being assembled in New Jersey today. The other one has been constructed in Europe and is ready to be shipped over to the United States to be assembled. And kind of what's really hard about this is that the cancellation happening today, and really already this week they started to wind down. It's not something that you can just turn on again on Monday or next week or the week after that. They're going to be kind of securing the site, and then the workforce is going to be allocated to different projects. People are going to go elsewhere. and maybe leave New Jersey and move somewhere else to take another job. And the bids, the contracts that this are all being done under will at some point be terminated, which means that if the delay extends any period of time, you can't just say, okay, we've settled this and you can come back and do it again next week. It will be already, frankly, we've lost quite a lot of time. And the longer this goes on, the worse that gets. We did a back-of-the-envelope analysis, a very conservative one, saying, what if it's a 6-month delay? If it's closed for 6 months, what would happen? That may be the best-case scenario right now, to be clear, because again, even if a settlement is reached next week, it'll take a while to remobilize. Just looking at the financial costs, the interest on the loans that were taken out to keep the project going, the interest that will be paid over the life of the project to pay for the capital investments, and all of those financial considerations, we assume that in the best case scenario, it's about a $720 million hit to the budget, addition to the project if we wait 6 months, and that it's as much as $1.34 billion that are added to the cost of the project from a 6-month delay. So about $720 million to $1.34 billion is our best guess estimate of how much this delay is going to add to the cost of the project if we can turn it around fairly quickly.
Oh. And well, look, thank you, Tom. What you just said is just it's infuriating me. It's boiling my blood. I'll be honest. Just this is something that's ending up costing us. We're the ones that are paying for this. It's the taxpayers that are on the hook.
It's the taxpayers.
It drives me absolutely crazy. I mean, this is something. First of all, just thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mayor, for joining up. I'm grateful for your time and thank you again. I just want to continue this. I mean, I really want to hit home to everybody. This is not, government bureaucracy getting in the way. This is not, about, the delays because of legal challenges and whatnot. This is because of one person, the President of the United States, who has decided to stop the payments, even though Congress has authorized this and put forward the funding. There are contracts. So, here are the things that are happening right now to try to press on this. There are 2 different lawsuits that are happening. One by the Gateway Commission that is moving forward through our federal claims court, and then another one by New York and New Jersey together. So I'm grateful to our governor, Mikey Sherrill, for pushing forward on this. And they were in front of the court today, and we're hoping to hear what we'd like to see is to have a temporary restraining order put and for us to be able to continue to get funding while we are going through the legal process. That's what we're hoping for. So that's what we're waiting for and see if that comes through. But look, we're going to try to move these 2 legal cases as quickly as possible to try to address both the contract violations that are happening here, as well as the harm that is being done to New Jersey and to New York for these problems that we're facing in terms of the impact that it's going to have on our state. We're pushing forward in as many different ways as possible and trying to continue to engage. And for instance, I've had multiple conversations with our Transportation Secretary, Secretary Duffy, who, by the way, lives in New Jersey, knows the importance of this project. They live and breathe it. Their neighbors are needing the transit. So, these are the types of things we need to push on, and it's absolutely critical that we move forward. One more issue before we get to the questions, I want to get there as quickly as we can, is just on everyone's minds, just the lawlessness that we've seen in Minnesota, the challenges that we saw when it comes to having thousands of federal agents there. There are more federal agents in Minnesota than the entirety of the Minnesota State Police and the Minneapolis Police combined. It is outrageous in terms of just the violence that we've seen, taking the lives and killing of Alex Preti and Renee Good. And I know this has been on a lot of people's minds, and we absolutely need to sustain this pressure because we see this administration finally seeing an issue where they know the American people are not with them on this. and that is what is causing them to start to change their approach, and allowed us to be able to single out the DHS funding, which I refuse to support. I will not fund and support this lawlessness that we see, whether it be ICE or CBP or more broadly, just again, the deep rot that we're seeing across the board. But this is not just a Minnesota problem. We're seeing it here in New Jersey. When I'm talking to the mayor in Jersey City about the ICE taking commuters and detaining them. I've been to Delaney Hall in Newark several times and just seeing the problems with my own eyes there in terms of these for-profit companies that are profiting off of the misery and the cruelty that is being put forward. Just today, hearing more and more reports from people who are worried about being grabbed on the streets. I'm hearing from American citizens now in New Jersey who are telling me they're carrying their passports around just in case, because they're fearful about this. Like, this is not the America that I want to raise my kids in. That we want your kids and your grandkids to grow up in. We don't want this type of chaos. We want a sense of respect for dignity and decency and for humanity. Again, I think this is breaking through. I have not seen this administration feel this much on their heels as I have in the last 2 weeks, but we have to sustain it because they are hoping that we will not pay attention, that we'll move on to the next issue, the next problems that are out there. And we know that there are a lot every single day. It feels like there's plenty different things, the crises and fires that are going forward. And so we have to make sure that we are sustaining this and pushing on this. Again, I will do everything I can. I do not want to see this funding go forward on DHS. We need to push forward on real changes, deep to the bone, in terms of what needs to happen, in terms of being able to set forward the kind of accountability to address this. Whether it's, I believe, we need to get this surge of federal agents out of Minnesota, that we can have an independent investigation into these killings. That, yes, we want to see body cameras. We want them to not wear masks. We need visible IDs, but we need a whole lot more than that in terms of just stopping the roving, roving efforts that they are doing, and to just grab people on the streets or knocking on our doors without a judicial warrant. These are the types of actions that must be agreed upon. Otherwise, we're not going to fund this. Otherwise, we're not going to move forward with this. And it's something that we have to stay strong on, and because the American people are with us, again, across the political spectrum. So I just want to raise that. Why don't we go to questions just so we have time to be able to get through this? I know we've been going fast, but thank you, everybody. There's a lot to get through. So why don't we turn to the questions and try to get through as many as we can.
Thank you, Senator. And first, we have Camille from Lyndhurst. And Camille, you should be live with the Senator.
All right. Good evening, Senator Kim. First and foremost, I am grateful to you for making us aware and being upfront with your constituents. So thank you for that. My question is about the funding, and that the fact that I thought Congress allocated the money for this project and the president is just swooping in. And what is his reasoning for stopping the funding? Is it because we're a blue state? Because he seems to be going after blue states. And so that's my question to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, and this is exactly the point, which is that, his administration will sometimes, say, oh, well, this is about DEI. They're worried about, whether or not the contractors were abiding by certain rules. We know we have the clarity and the transparency there. That is not the issue. But we heard it straight from the president's mouth in the Oval Office when he talked about this being a Democratic project, a Democrat project. It's not. It's not a Democrat project. It's an American project. It's an infrastructure project, and it's going to help millions of Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. It's about our nation's economy. This is something that will bring over $445 billion of economic gain in between now, basically in the next 25, 30 years or so. This is something that is going to benefit thousands and thousands of jobs, transform our transit as we hope to be able to move from 24 trains an hour to 48. So doubling the number of trains that we can get in and out of New York, it will just completely transform, our state in terms of what we're able to do and grow our economy. So that's what it should be. It's a very clear cut, and I can't stress it enough that the president is really demonstrating that this is about political retribution, and I just find that to be absolutely wrong. I mean, that is not governance. And that is not what the people here deserve. And I'm grateful that that you and others are paying attention to this, because this is really going to do harm to our state, and is very tangible that we're being targeted in the same way that I felt when we were targeted on the salt tax cap that he put on a couple years back, and we're continuing to suffer from. We just see certain times where we've been just really singled out as a state. And this is one of them, and it should be something that all of us stand and say, this is not right. This needs to stop immediately, and to be able to keep that pressure on until he gets the funding back up and open. So thanks so much for sharing this. But you're absolutely right. It was allocated by Congress. There are contracts. This is why we're going to court, and I believe we will win. But unfortunately, the fact that we have to get there is showing that things are going to be delayed, and that's just going to end up costing us even more as taxpayers.
Okay, Senator. Next we have Peter from Weehawken. Peter, you should be on the line with the senator.
Hello, Senator. Thank you for having this town hall. To be honest, this is actually the first time I've ever been invited by any politician in New Jersey to speak or to share or to even attend an online town hall, so I'm very grateful for that. You mentioned the lawsuit and also retribution, and I see this whole thing about President Trump wanting to tie the funds to having Penn Station renamed Trump Station as actually plain and simple extortion. And I wondered what your thoughts are on that. I think, I mean, if someone comes and extorts me, I figure if I give them whatever they want, they'll just come back for more at some point. And so I find this really a difficult moral choice that we're facing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for joining, Peter. I hope you join future ones. Please, when you're done with this, press star 6 and sign up for our newsletter and keep up. We try to do these town halls as much as possible. But, you and I are on the same page here. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I first heard about, and it's not just Penn Station. He wants his name on Dulles Airport down in D.C. And at first I thought, surely this is not right. I mean, it's like, I'll be honest, it just kind of broke my brain. I was just trying to think through this. Is this really happening? Are we really in this situation? And unfortunately we are. Unfortunately we are in a situation where the President of the United States is withholding funding that is allocated by Congress. This is not his personal slush fund. This is the American people's money. This is our money. This is our infrastructure project, and he is refusing to put forward the funds unless we put his name on these buildings. And you're right, that is extortion, and that is not right. And if you give into that, it's going to be something else. And we have seen that over and over and over again. We see that like in terms of just the constantness of how he's operating, let alone the fact that he's already putting his name on the Kennedy Center, on U.S. Institute for Peace, and elsewhere. It's like I think the thing that bothers me most as I was thinking about it today is that there are going to be 1,000 families, 1,000 people that lose their jobs today. I want Donald Trump to go and talk to them and tell them why they're losing their jobs. Why is it that they're not going to be able to show up to work and they're not going to get a paycheck? Some of these are construction workers that I talked to. They talked about how they bought a new home. or moved closer to the Gateway Tunnel and moved here to be able to do this project. And they thought they were going to have steady work for years, as this is a major project. And just the look on their faces recently as we're seeing the reality setting in, like the fact that they are going to lose their jobs today, 1,000 of them, and thousands more to come, because of one person who is just trying to use the taxpayer dollars against us. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and it's just is unacceptable, and we cannot give into that extortion. Thank you for sharing that, Peter.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we have Matthew from Totowa. And Matthew, you should be on the line with the senator.
Hey, Senator, thanks for putting this together. I can actually get in touch with your office when I need to, so I do appreciate that, like the other senator in our state. I mean, I'm hearing everybody saying with the Gateway, like, he can't do this. We know this isn't normal time, so I'm wondering how creative we're going to get, because I'm just going to call this for what it is. This is a fascist takeover of the federal government. So if we're not prepared to withhold taxes, bring the Senate to a crawl that they can't do anything without beating a lot of roadblocks from the minority party, I think you guys need to get rid of Chuck Schumer, because I shouldn't just be hearing about the Gateway project from one New Jersey senator. Like, Schumer should be out front and leading this, and the fact that we haven't, again, just shows why he's not ready for this moment. Thank you.
Yeah, no, look, thank you, Matthew, and I feel your anger and just deep frustration. It's not just about Gateway. It's just been, just getting hit over the head over and over and over and over again about this, or even what we were talking about with Minnesota. I was saying, like, the funds that are going to pay for this surge of federal agents in Minnesota, that came from your Medicaid, your health care funds. It was a direct transfer of money from our health care to this type of lawlessness and state violence. And that's why our bills are going up. That's why our healthcare costs are going up, and people are losing their healthcare or having other challenges that are out there. And this is not normal at all. This is not, some normal political moment. And like I said, that's exactly why I stepped up right now to try to help our state and help our country get through this, because I am worried about what kind of America my two little boys are going to grow up in. When we're pushing forward, what I will say is that at least, let me just talk about the Gateway. The New Jersey and New York delegations are locked in on this and in sync. And Chuck Schumer has stood up against this extortion effort by Trump. Senator Booker was out doing a press conference with the governor today in Newark to stand up. So all of us kind of doing our role. I was down in D.C. today trying to be able to keep up with the negotiations and the talks from here. So we're trying to operate as a team and be able to work in a strategic way going forward, because that's how we're going to get this. We can't make progress if we're just driving in reverse, if we're only being reactionary to this moment. So it's just important for us to be able to mobilize. But again, these are not normal times. So for instance, with this DHS funding, as I said, I'm not going to give another dollar, another dime, as we see this lawlessness continue, and we need to stick to that. And we need to be able to push and just say, this is non-negotiable in terms of being able to restore order and to have abiding by our laws and our Constitution. We can't just give a half measure here, because they're removing 700 agents out of 3,000. I mean, that again, that is not the kind of actions that we should accept. And these are the types of efforts. But as I mentioned, all of your attention, all of the people's responses, this is what the Trump administration is responding to, and they feel the pressure. And so please, keep it up. Call into our offices, call into Democrats and Republican offices, but also share the stories. I said to say some of the most powerful calls and emails are people sharing their stories about healthcare loss or about direct problems that they're seeing with immigration affecting their family or their neighborhood or their need for transit commuting into the city and why it is that they want the Gateway Tunnel. Like those are things that can be enormously helpful as we're trying to fight these fights and be able to move forward. So I just want to say I agree with you, Matthew. What we're seeing right now across the board, we need to demand change. We need to demand a change in the actions, but recognizing that this is deep to the core, the rot that we're seeing and the problems that we're seeing. This is why we need new leadership. That's why we can't have Kristi Noem or Tom Homan or Stephen Miller, raiding into our communities, get them out of those jobs. But it's also why we need to see change when it comes to on the Gateway. We cannot have this type of lawlessness that we see on that front. And that is why we need to demand that from Trump himself and say, not only do we want the funding turned back on, but we have to get to a point where it never gets turned off again. Otherwise, we're just constantly living under this fear, and that just can't be how we operate. So thanks for that.
Senator, the next question comes from online, and this comes from Sue from Burlington County, and the question is, it's become clear that the Trump administration plans to interfere with the upcoming election. Is any group preparing contingency plans to ensure free and fair elections?
Yeah, though, great question. I mean, this is something that keeps a lot of us up at night, and I say that as someone who was there at the Capitol on January 6th, 2021, and seeing the kind of lies that were put before, but it's unfortunately still continuing. Yes, I'm worried about this. There is a lot of effort and mobilization that is happening around the country to be able to have the kind of election monitors, the attorneys, the work being done to be able to fight back against this. So there is a lot of effort, a lot of resources going into this to try to make sure that we can fight back against these types of lies with the midterm elections coming up. Our state actually played an important role in test driving some of this during the governor's race, also down in Virginia. We also saw this kind of national mobilization in 2024. So we're going to continue to push. I will say, the fact that we've had a lot of special elections over the course of this last year, and many of them have gone towards the Democrats in very significant levels, and we did not see any significant kind of nefarious actions to try to call these elections into into a question, to try to make it difficult for voters to vote and things of that nature. We're keeping an eye on it, and certainly we're ready. But that at least gives me some heart that we need to be ready. But hopefully we're not going to see something as severe as some of what we've seen before. But on the other hand, as Trump just said, he now wants to say that this needs to be federalized. And exactly why he's trying to say that, because, again, he wants to be the one that's able to control it. And when we see what's happening with Gateway, we can't trust him. Certainly when it's about his own power and the power of his party, this is someone who is literally pushing forward on gerrymandering to push forward to try to literally try to cheat his way to be able to hold a House majority. So we're seeing it, in those types of ways as well. So yes, we're going to stand up against that. The Constitution stands up against exactly what it's saying, and we need to make sure that we are doing all that we can to push back on that. But that is something that we are very concerned about and is a major effort that is doing a lot of coordination across this country, and a lot of money is going into this as well to make sure that we can be protected. So I will go and take from your words. I'll go and check back in with that operation, and I'll get back to you all in terms of an update on where things stand. But thanks for that.
Okay, Senator, next we have Doug from the capital city of Trenton. Doug, you are online with the Senator.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Kim. This is Doug O'Malley with Environment New Jersey. And I just really wanted to thank you for your leadership, Senator, and for holding this town hall. And also great to hear from Tom Wright with the Regional Plan Association and Mayor Cilantro from Dunellen. I guess, this issue of Gateway and building this tunnel has been a long one. I remember standing with Senator Frank Lautenberg right after the cancellation of the original ARC tunnel by Governor Christie. But I wanted to go back to what the mayor was saying, right? No one cares whether you're Democrat or Republican. We just want to build the damn tunnels and make sure that people can get to and from New York in a timely way. And I really have a two-part question here. One is the Gateway Development Corporation sued earlier this week, and Governor Sherrill called President Trump to say, hey, we're going to sue on this. This is a clear breach of contract. Obviously, you never know what courts are going to do, but this seems like a very clear, open and shut case of violating that breach of contract. Can you talk, Senator, more about just, speculate on kind of when we might hear on the legal angles, because we know obviously the courts have been a really important part of the check on decisions from the president. And the second part of the question, and Tom referenced this, the tunnels aren't just built before the Titanic. They're also suffering from the impacts of climate change and more extreme weather events. Mm-hmm. So it would be great to hear, Senator, on just why there's urgency now so that we don't wait 6 months and spend more than $1 billion in waiting, but why it's so important that we spend every day getting these tunnels built because of the impacts of climate change and what that means for the infrastructure literally inside those tunnels.
Yeah, no, that's right. And let me just work backwards there just to help people understand. So what we're saying right now, for the trains, we have 2 tunnels in and out through under the Hudson, and these are, from over 100 years ago, 110, some 115 years ago, and they got huge problems. And this is something where, like, if these tunnels become inoperable, like, that shuts down our transit, it shuts down the commuting, it shuts down the transportation of goods. Like, this will be an economic catastrophe that can really affect our nation's economy. So that's incredibly important. So what we're doing is building 2 additional tunnels, brand new, that will go through. That's what the boring drilling apparatus that was being talked about by Tom is for. And that'll get us 2 new tunnels. And then as we use those 2 tunnels, we will then refurbish and redo the old tunnel so that we will actually have 4. We will double the number of train tunnels. So that gives you a sense of what we're doing. This isn't just some patchwork. This is about not just fixing, it's about expanding. And yes, that's going to be incredibly important for us to be able to do. And so this is really critical. As we saw, these tunnels were filled with water during Superstorm Sandy, and has just continued to degrade because of that. We need to make sure that our infrastructure is resilient. We need to make sure that we're able to move forward, because we know it's just a matter of when, not if, we got hit by another major storm. And whether it's the problems that we're having with beach replenishment down on the Jersey Shore or the marshlands or elsewhere, we need to make sure that we're stepping up, and we're seeing how much flooding challenges that we're facing, not just down the shore, but even inland with the rivers and the creeks. So that's something that's incredibly important. With the legal challenges, so what we're hoping is, again, that we were at New York, New Jersey, we're in front of the Southern District of New York courts today, and the hopeful scenario here is we get a temporary restraining order forcing this administration to continue to pay and provide funds for the Gateway while we go through legal proceedings, which we feel like we have a very strong case. The other avenue is the Gateway project has their own lawsuit through the federal claims court, and they're going to be meeting next week for an initial conference laying out the timetable going forward. And hopefully at that, the judge will approve of an expedited schedule. So we're hopeful we can move forward, but these take time and it's going to be difficult. And again, it's using our own government against us. It will be the federal government that is standing against our state, standing against the Gateway, using government resources and using public officials to stand up and try to stop us. And like, that's again, just what I just find mind boggling about this. It is one of the clearest cut cases of just shooting ourselves in the foot and is so dangerous left and right. So it's just something that I hope people understand. Look, it's a Friday night. You all have been very generous with your time. I don't want to disturb you for your dinners and your evenings going forward, but I wanted to do this because this is the deadline, and I've really just wanted to hit home why this is important, and I hope that has been helpful for you. Please keep up with us. Press *6 right here if you want to sign up for the newsletter to get updates. We'll keep you posted on this as well as future town halls. But look, as we're just ending here, I just want to say, please just take care. I know a lot of us, we're all feeling this so strongly, left and right. The anxiety, the fear that is out there, the sense of just things spinning out of control. I keep thinking about a woman who told me that sometimes it's hard for her to breathe because of just how much, just kind of anxiety that she's feeling. And so I just wanted you to know I feel it too. And I'm going to continue to fight for my family, my state that has given my family so much, and for this country that I believe in still so much. And I hope you are as well. I've often said that I believe that the opposite of democracy is apathy. It's if we give up and feel helpless. So yes, these are big challenges and difficult problems that we're facing, and there's real harm being done. But do not give up. Do not feel helpless. Continue to push and continue to engage. And I hope that you see me as someone who's trying to do that on your behalf, of you and your family. And if there's anything I can do, don't hesitate to reach out. If there's something we can do, I'm a big team back in the state that's trying to make sure that we're being responsive to your needs. A great team in D.C. fighting the good fight in these hearings and with the legislation that we're standing up. But it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't work for you. And so I just will continue to push as hard as I can on behalf of you and your families. And try to do my best for our state. So let's keep at it, and I wish you all the best. Have a great weekend. I hope you have a chance to watch the Super Bowl or other things, to be able to spend time with your families and loved ones. I wish you all the best, and please take care. Take care and bye.